If you carefully analyze the visual architecture of the Kate Spade brand, you see the exact color palette of joy. For over 2 decades, she built a massive billion-dollar retail empire out of canary yellows, bright pinks, and playful polka dots. Her name became universally synonymous with unbridled optimism. But in June 2018, the world was completely shattered by a news bulletin that defied the cheerful aesthetic of her legacy. The architect of fashion's Happiest brand had taken her own life. But why would the woman who designed the ultimate uniform of joy take her own life? The tragic reality was that Kate Spade was silently fighting a devastating battle against severe clinical depression. To understand how the ultimate symbol of American optimism became the center of a profound psychological tragedy, we have to examine the exact mechanics of how she engineered happiness out of nylon and thread. To establish her massive success, we must meticulously examine the global fashion industry in the early 1990s. During this specific era, the dominant runway aesthetics consisted entirely of Seattle grunge, heroin chic, and heavy Black European minimalism championed by legacy luxury houses like Prada and Chanel. High fashion was deliberately cynical, dark, and highly restrictive for modern professionals. Enter Kate Brosnahan. Recognizing this void, she executed a precise mechanical rejection of 1990s cynicism. Operating under her maiden name, she realized it lacked retail punch. She boldly combined her first name with her boyfriend Andy's last name, birthing the legendary moniker Kate Spade. In 1993, she designed the original Sam bag. She sourced waterproof industrial nylon and utilized simple webbed canvas handles. In a brilliant stroke of scrappy genius, the night before a major trade show, she ripped out the tiny woven cloth interior labels and hand-sewed them onto the exterior, instantly giving the plain bag a powerful visual identity. As her retail company rapidly expanded, she systematically evolved the brand by injecting heavily saturated colors directly into her product lines. She introduced bright Kelly greens, vivid oranges, and shocking pinks into the drab corporate landscape. Through this deliberate chromatic shift, she proved a fundamental retail concept. A professional working woman did not have to strictly dress in a severe, monochromatic black suit to be taken seriously by male executives in the boardroom. She could confidently carry a bright yellow tote bag and effortlessly command the exact same professional respect from her peers. She successfully forged a billion-dollar empire by rejecting cynicism and commodifying cheerfulness. But creating a global phenomenon out of bright aesthetics required more than just good design. It required tapping into a deep, neurological phenomenon that fundamentally altered how women dressed for the workplace. To completely understand the profound, widespread appeal of these specific designs and their massive, undeniably pervasive cultural footprint, we must meticulously analyze the fascinating psychological theory officially defined as enclothed cognition. This is the firmly established scientific concept dictating that the physical clothing and specific colors a person actively wears directly influence their internal psychological state, underlying cognitive processes, and biological hormone production. The global fashion industry formally refers to this highly effective behavioral mechanic as dopamine dressing. Kate Spade's vibrantly colored bags actively functioned as highly effective psychological tools for the modern demographic. Imagine a hardworking professional woman constantly dealing with a highly stressful corporate job, safely navigating a difficult personal life, and relentlessly facing the mundane gray reality of adult responsibilities. When she intentionally purchased a bright pink Kate Spade wallet, a vivid lime green waterproof nylon satchel, or a canary yellow structured tote bag, The direct visual stimulus of that highly saturated color physically triggered a microdose of dopamine directly within the reward center of her brain. This specific chemical reaction actively lowered her baseline cortisol levels, consistently providing an immediate, necessary psychological lift during her morning commute. Her structural designs were never simply about projecting exorbitant wealth or displaying superficial status symbols. They were literally wearable optimism. They actively acted as a bright, structural armor, meticulously engineered to fiercely shield women against the grueling, cynical realities of daily modern life. This specific neurological mechanism thoroughly explains exactly why her dedicated consumer base remained so fiercely, undeniably loyal to the corporate brand across multiple decades of rapidly changing trends. Millions of women felt a deeply profound, emotional, and psychological connection directly to the company because the physical products actively and reliably manipulated their exact brain chemistry to make them feel completely and genuinely happier, effectively treating modern fashion as a highly reliable, incredibly comforting, and deeply personal form of accessible psychological therapy. This psychological armor protected millions of consumers, but the immense pressure of maintaining this relentlessly cheerful facade eventually created a crushing, unsustainable psychological burden for the woman whose name was literally stitched onto the label. To comprehend this devastating corporate disconnect, we must meticulously examine the specific timeline of the company's acquisition. In 1999, the Neiman Marcus Group aggressively purchased a controlling 56% majority stake in the brand. In 2006, Kate and Andy Spade officially sold their remaining corporate shares to Liz Claiborne Incorporated and departed the company entirely to focus strictly on raising their young daughter. This massive financial transaction created a bizarre, deeply agonizing psychological reality, the complete severing of her personal identity. Kate Spade, the multinational corporation, continued to aggressively open hundreds of retail stores across the globe, launch massive international advertising campaigns, and completely dominate global fashion markets. But Katie Brosnahan, the human being, was quietly sitting inside her private Manhattan apartment, completely and entirely detached from the massive industrial machine, operating loudly under her own name, a name that now legally belonged entirely to a separate corporate entity. We must heavily analyze the specific, highly toxic psychological barriers regarding mental health stigma deeply embedded within the global fashion industry. The fashion industry fundamentally sells the strict, uncompromising illusion of flawless, effortless perfection to the masses. To admit to struggling is to aggressively break that highly lucrative illusion, according to poignant public statements explicitly released by her older sister and other close family members. Immediately following the tragic event, Kate lived in absolute, debilitating fear regarding her worsening mental health. She was absolutely terrified that if she publicly admitted to seeking necessary inpatient medical treatment for severe clinical depression, the subsequent destructive tabloid media scandal would irreparably destroy the happy, carefree corporate image of the Kate Spade brand she deeply loved. She felt a profound, unrelenting personal obligation to fiercely protect the cheerful, optimistic myth she had meticulously created for millions of working women, even at the absolute ultimate cost of her own physical survival. The bright, incredibly colorful corporate empire she successfully built effectively became an inescapable, heavily fortified psychological prison that she could never safely exit. The brand's unyielding, globally recognized association with pure, unadulterated joy made it fundamentally impossible for the brilliant founder to publicly express any profound, paralyzing sadness to her adoring consumer base. She stepped away from the corporate spotlight to find peace, but the quiet, agonizing reality of her internal world was slowly overpowering the bright, structured exterior she had spent her entire life trying to project. On the morning of June 5th, 2018, the terrible, devastating, unspoken reality finally broke through the meticulously maintained corporate illusion. Kate Spade was found dead inside her Park Avenue apartment in Manhattan, having tragically taken her own life at the age of 55. The sudden, devastating news sent an immediate, paralyzing shockwave directly through the global fashion industry, her massive international consumer base, and the broader cultural landscape of America. Shortly following the horrific tragedy, her grieving husband, Andy Spade, officially released a deeply poignant, clarifying public statement to aggressively combat the swirling tabloid rumors and directly address the raw, painful truth of her condition. He bravely and openly revealed to the entire watching world that Kate had been actively seeking professional medical help and diligently taking prescribed medication for severe clinical depression and crippling anxiety for 5 continuous years, faithfully attending regular therapy appointments to desperately fight the rapidly worsening symptoms. In his emotionally devastating statement, he emphasized a crucial, heartbreaking point to the international press regarding the invisible, deeply deceptive nature of her illness. She was actively seeking help. There was no indication and no warning that she would do this. It was a complete shock, and it clearly wasn't her. There were personal demons she was battling. This profound, courageous, and deeply transparent revelation completely shattered a deeply entrenched, highly dangerous societal illusion. As a culture, people inherently associate immense financial wealth, monumental corporate success, and relentlessly cheerful visual aesthetics with an absolute, impenetrable biological immunity to profound sadness. Kate Spade's devastating death violently shattered that false illusion permanently, brutally proving to the world that severe clinical depression is an insidious, relentless, and entirely indiscriminate neurological disease. It is a biological condition that absolutely does not care about your massive corporate bank account, your prestigious social standing, or the bright, optimistic color of the expensive designer handbag you confidently carry to the office every single morning to intentionally project unshakable confidence to your professional peers. Her silent, grueling battle stood in agonizing, stark contrast to the absolute joy she spent her entire professional life expertly engineering and mass-producing for millions of other women around the world. Her death broke the heart of the fashion industry and revealed a terrifying truth about the stigma of mental illness, forcing the public to completely reevaluate the legacy of the bright, colorful bags still sitting in their closets. Following the loss, the brand, now owned by the massive corporate conglomerate Tapestry Incorporated, orchestrated a profound corporate response. They immediately pledged millions of dollars in corporate funding directly to prominent mental health awareness and global suicide prevention organizations, permanently transforming the devastating personal tragedy into a massive, highly visible philanthropic mission. This structural shift fundamentally altered the cultural meaning of the physical accessories. When a professional woman confidently carries a Kate Spade nylon bag today, it is definitively no longer just a superficial symbol of 1990s economic optimism. It serves as a profound, tactile reminder of human fragility and the absolute necessity of psychological grace. Kate Spade brilliantly built a global retail empire out of pure joy, saturated color, and brilliant light. But her heartbreaking final chapter remains the ultimate tragic reminder that we can never truly see the grueling private battles aggressively raging behind closed doors. The brightly colored bag she left behind are an undeniable testament to her absolute creative genius. But her true, enduring legacy is a far more vital, urgent lesson for society. Outward perfection is very often an engineered illusion, and no amount of corporate success can replace the desperate, fundamental human need for deep empathy, unconditional grace, and aggressive mental health awareness. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please reach out to local support resources. Did her designs impact your life or wardrobe? Let us all honor her memory by sharing your stories in the comments below.